the game that I think most of us agree was probably the other high-profile game this weekend, that was USC going to Notre Dame. And it was interesting because throughout the week, Notre Dame opened up as a slight favorite. The line didn't really move, and it's a little bit surprising, right? USC is coming in undefeated. Notre Dame has 2 losses in their last 3 games. And so you kind of sat there and said, USC is the underdog in this game. All the money, the line hasn't moved. What's going on? Well, I picked Notre Dame this week, but what I can definitively tell you is this. I did not expect this game to go the way that it actually did, because while Oregon-Washington was game of the year status, this was a beatdown of epic proportions as Notre Dame beats USC 48-20. And while I'd love to sit here and talk about Notre Dame and what does it mean, and it's this incredible moment in time, the story coming out of this game is unquestionably USC, where they go from here. And frankly, I think the bigger question is, like, where is this program right now? Is they're about 8 months away from being a member of the Big Ten. And what's interesting about this game, listen, I am far from the only one that has had questions about USC. And it was funny because when I was watching the game, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to talk about this on Monday's Aaron Torres pod. But then it kept getting worse and it kept getting worse. And I bring it up because I think we all thought a loss was coming for USC at one point, maybe 2, maybe 3. But I think we all kind of envisioned the same thing happening, right? For months, for 2 years, since the day Lincoln Riley got to USC and brought Caleb Williams with him, we said, okay, the offense is going to be fine, but it's that defense. Do you trust the defense? Can the defense get the job done in games that matter? They couldn't last year. They couldn't, early in the year, they've struggled against the Arizona States and the Colorados and the whomevers. It actually wasn't the defense that let USC down on Saturday night. You know who let USC down on Saturday night? It was Caleb Williams, who played by far the worst game of his college career, 199 yards passing, 3 interceptions. He came into this game with 1 interception the entire season. And so this game just did not go like we expected at all. And I will say, I don't think Caleb Williams was great for most of the Arizona game last week. He was incredible late, but I don't think anybody saw this coming. And I certainly don't think people thought this loss, if it happened, was going to happen in this manner. Caleb Williams with 3 interceptions, USC with 5 turnovers overall. And I think what's most important, the USC defense was fine. USC's defense only gave up 251 yards of total offense, but it was because they kept getting put in bad spot after bad spot after bad spot by the offense, turning the ball over, that the score looks so lopsided. Again, doing my radio show on Saturday night, my buddy Arnie Spanier said, I don't know if I've ever seen a game where somebody has 251 yards of total offense and 48 points, only that's exactly what happened. USC also gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown. This was a complete debacle. And so again, it's bad news. And I don't think we have to beat around the bush. I think this very much calls into question USC for this season, but let's call a spade a spade. I think it calls USC into question beyond this season as well. As far as this season is concerned, listen, we should have all seen this coming. As I said, this is really, in my opinion, about the 4th straight game where USC has not looked right. 3 weeks ago, they played a very bad Arizona State team on the road, and it was closer than a 42-28 final score indicated. They get the win. Caleb Williams is Superman. Next week, they play at Colorado, give up 41 points to the Colorado Buffaloes, survive that one. And then last week, they fall down 17-0 to Arizona before rallying to win in double overtime. So they haven't been playing well. And here's the scary part. This is actually the easy part of the schedule they just got through. The back half of the schedule, I've been talking about this since July and August. Have you seen what USC has ahead? Now, we just talked about it with Oregon and Washington because they're in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is deep and talented, and seemingly all these big games are coming at the end of the year. But here's what USC has over the next couple weeks as they wrap the regular season. Utah at home next week. Now, Utah's not great this year. Utah beat USC twice last year, punked them. And the one thing we know about Utah, they're physical, they're tough, they're mean, they're going to beat you up. And that's exactly what USC's kryptonite is. They play USC at the Coliseum next week. We'll see how that one goes. Even if USC survives, they have Cal in a couple weeks. But those final 3 games, you know what USC's final 3 games are this season? Washington at home. We know how good Washington is. At Oregon, good luck with that one. If you couldn't handle the cold and rain in South Bend in October, I don't think it's going to be any better in Eugene in November. And then you have a UCLA team at home to wrap the regular season. I think UCLA is pretty good. I actually think USC or UCLA matches up well with USC because, again, they're physical, they're tough, they play real defense, although it's the offense at UCLA which is struggling right now. And so you look at this USC team. I don't see the scenario where in a year where you have maybe the greatest quarterback that Lincoln Riley is ever going to have. Because listen, I know I can be critical of Caleb Williams on Saturday, but we've talked about this before, is that I know Lincoln Riley always has a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback under his watch, but Caleb Williams, I think we can all agree, is a different level at his best than Baker Mayfield was, than Kyler Murray was, than Jalen Hurts was, whatever. And so you have this incredible quarterback. But with the way that the offensive line produced on Saturday, with the way that this defense has been for most of the year, they're not going through the rest of this season with just this one loss. I don't see them beating Washington. I don't see them certainly winning at Oregon. I don't think UCLA or Utah at home is going to be easy either. And so all of a sudden, you don't get to the Pac-12 championship game. You don't get to, you get to 9-3 with Caleb Williams. How does that fare for this program going forward? Because this is the part that I don't think anybody's talking about. It's one thing to be a little bit soft and a little bit this and a little bit that. It's another thing to do it as you are going into the Big Ten. And I was thinking about this on Saturday. Listen, we know it's kind of a different brand of football. I'm not here to talk Iowa and whatever. But at the same time, one thing you can't question, Midwest, tough, physical, line of scrimmage league. Even the teams that are explosive. What is the criticism of Ohio State? Are they tough enough in the biggest games? Penn State, tough, physical, mean. Michigan, tough, physical, mean. And you look at this current iteration of USC. Let me ask you a question. Just based on what we know, and we don't know who's going to be quarterback for them next year. We think it'll be five-star Malachi Nelson, and we don't know some of these other programs where they're at, et cetera. But let's say things largely stay status quo. Let's say Jim Harbaugh doesn't leave for the NFL. Let's say Ryan Day is at Ohio State as we expect him to be. Where is USC, the USC that we saw on Saturday and really the last 4 weeks going into the Big Ten next year? Because they ain't beating Michigan. They ain't beating Ohio State. I don't think they're in better shape than Penn State. I don't think they're in better shape than Oregon. I question if they're even in better shape than UCLA and Washington. Now, Washington, we'll see what happens post Michael Penix. UCLA, it's kind of a weird, they were so offensive, but now they're defensive. What is their identity? Can they keep it up? But I look at this I don't think USC is like a team that is just going to go into the Pac-12 or go into the Big Ten and just steamroll everybody because they got Lincoln Riley and a really good quarterback. And so I will tell you, I do think we're about to see over the next 6 to 8 months, I think the honeymoon for Lincoln Riley is going to end fast. And it doesn't mean he's on that. Like, I think college football fans get this part twisted sometimes. Doesn't mean he's on the hot seat. Doesn't mean he's getting, like, that's not what that means. But what it means is, I can say this as somebody that lives in LA. In LA, USC fans, I know that USC hasn't been very good for a long time pre-Lincoln Riley. And I think USC fans are grateful that he chose USC and he came to USC and he left Oklahoma and everything that happened 2 years ago now. But USC fans expect to compete at the highest levels. And even if they have a downturn, it's like whatever, being a Florida fan or being a Bama fan or being an LSU fan, being an Ohio State fan. Even if you have 1 bad year, 2 bad years, it's like, no. We're going to get it right, and we're going to compete for national championships. That is the standard here. We win national championships. We produce Heisman Trophy caliber players, and we compete at the highest level of the sport. And right now, I think USC is a really fun sideshow. I don't think they're ready to compete at the highest levels of the sport. I know there's a 12-team playoff next year, but I don't think they're ready to go into, Georgia in round 1 and then beat them and then go beat, Michigan in round 2. Like, this program just feels like it's at kind of a weird crossroads, and it feels weird again, year 2 for Lincoln Riley. But this is the transfer portal era. You can fix things fast. And he told us that the defense was fixed. Now, again, the defense wasn't the problem on Saturday, but we will see, because we have seen USC this year. That defense hasn't been great, and Caleb Williams has bailed them out most of the last 2 years. And what happens if you don't get A++ quarterback most nights? Well, it got ugly on Saturday, and I don't think it's going to get any better if that defense doesn't improve. And so, again, I think it's a little bit of a crossroads moment. I think it's a little bit of a honeymoon is over for Lincoln Riley. Not to say he's going to lose his job. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is you're entering a really tough league with really good competition. And USC fans aren't going to just accept that because it's a new league, because it's only year 3, whatever, that you're the 4th, 5th, 6th best team, which is where I think they're trending now. So it'll be interesting to follow. And by the way, like I am being a little bit negative. At the same time, USC could bounce back. I think they take care of business this week against Utah just because I think Utah is really struggling without Cam Rising. But that schedule is only getting tougher. And again, I think you talk about a scenario where the Lincoln Riley honeymoon ends quickly. See what happens to USC. See what happens at USC if they finish 9-3 this year. There's going to be a lot of people unhappy. They're going to demand change. They're going to demand different defensive coordinator, different O-line coach, whatever it is. You can't keep going on like what we saw on Saturday.